everyone! On today's body series, I wanted to discuss how to talk to kids about eating disorders.
Like, you can tell me about your worries and, like, what your concerns are and things that you've noticed. Like, you can even say, I find myself, da-da-da-da.
Okay. I don't want to sound like a bad mom.
No, it's not about being a bad mom if you're obviously seeking help for it. And I can even say that, like, for all of you out there that think, I'm a bad mother.
Yeah.
So, because it's not about that. Because we're always self-critical. So, there's no need.
HeyKayli, BYS 0002, scene 1, take 1, marker.
Ready and action.
Hello everyone! I am back today with Katie.
Hey guys.
And today we're going to be talking about something that a lot of you have asked me about, and that is talking to your children about having an eating disorder. A lot of people have wondered if I have talked to Braylee about having an eating disorder. And also a big fear of mine, and that is raising a daughter or a child after having an eating disorder and kind of subconsciously sending bad messages to them.
Yeah.
I really, really worry a lot about that. And so I was hoping that you could help anyone like me that might be struggling with these things. I do worry, and I don't want to sound like a bad mom. It's my biggest fear talking about this, but I do worry about her having the same tendencies that I had. But I never want her to go through what I went through or to feel what I felt. And I worry so much because I watch her eating habits, and they were a lot like mine were when I was young. I've always loved to eat so much, and so I'm so scared.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot from a lot of my viewers is the same concerns that you have. And I think, first of all, just to throw it out there, you're not a bad mom. You're not a bad mom. We do the best we can. And a lot of times when it comes to eating and how do we talk, and I'm worried that they're going to overeat or they're going to undereat. So one of the first things you can do is just notice if they're listening to their hunger and fullness cues. Now, I know many of you are thinking, well, how am I supposed to know if I've never, known? But just try to pay attention when they push away, when they stop eating, because kids are so intuitive. They will say things like, I don't want any more, Mom, I'm full. I don't want. And they just, even as babies, where they start to like push the food as you're trying to feed them, and they're like, blah,
Right.
And letting them learn that. And I think that we have to notice that at first to see how intuitive they really are.
Right.
Because I know our intuition is, wait, no, but we have it, the thing that we forget because we've been so consumed by eating disorder thoughts, eating disorder actions, we forget how intuitive it is, how our body tells us when we're hungry, and it tells us when we're full. We respond. And they don't really need to be coached.
Right.
We just need to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
And I know that's kind of scary because,
Yeah.
we don't want to disturb it. Like, the kids are so
Right.
innocent and they have such a way, and we don't want to make it worse. But I think the best thing we can do is just being honest. And I mean, I think that's kind of what we're getting into is like, how do you talk about, well,
Right.
I used to have an eating disorder.
Right, and that is something that I am worried about. And to answer anyone's question, I have never talked to Braylee about it. She's 8 years old, and I don't feel like she's old enough to understand what I went through, and I don't want to confuse her or put those thoughts in her head. But what age do you think is appropriate to open up that communication?
I mean, to be honest, 8 isn't that young.
She just feels like such a baby.
And it's because we're the parents and we think, 8 is so young. But I mean, I've treated girls as young as 11 or 10, and they've been sick for a while before I saw them. So, I mean, we know when our kids come back what's happening in their world, because they'll say, hey, so-and-so teased me, or somebody said this, and Mom, am I fat? Am I,
Right.
and they do it, they are starting to feel it.
Right, and I do remember being around her age and looking at my legs and thinking, my legs are so fat. What am I going to do about that? So I remember being that age. She just seems so much younger than I was.
But we start comparing at a young age, and I think the best thing we can do is to start talking about it. And like I say always, don't.
Right.
We don't need to give a bunch of details.
Right, and like, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
moving
does.
on.
So what I'm wondering is, like, I plan on telling Braylee that I had an eating disorder. Obviously, and I'll say this, obviously I put it out here
Yeah.
It's something
That she'll
going to
find
be
whether.
known.
Mhm.
What age do you start talking more about eating disorders?
Probably in a year or two, to be honest. Because I think it's important for you and for her to both notice your hunger and fullness cues and what's okay. And once you start to feel and know, then you'll feel more like confident, I guess.
So, as far as talking to Braylee about my eating disorder and what I went through, what age do you think is appropriate to bring that up? Because obviously I'm making YouTube videos and I'm putting it out there, and I'm not ashamed of that, and I want to always be very open with Braylee, but I don't want her to come back with that I did it, and you know she's just doing the same things that I did.
And I think that's a common fear, I think, for a lot of people. We think, oh, by talking about it, I can give it to them. And we really can't. And I know that sounds way too simple of a way to explain it, but we really can't, because the thing that we have to mainly work on, and the thing I'm always talking to people about, is learning coping skills to deal when we feel stressed, when we feel really sad, when we feel overwhelmed, when, you know, something bad happened. Anything like that, we need to be able to talk to someone, like being an open communicator with Braylee, so that she can come to you and say, Mom, people were mean, and she has that outlet. I mean, as a child and even now, I love to color, and that's a great outlet for me because it's just mindless, you know. And my girls are always laughing online. They're like, I can't believe you still color. But finding things that like give you that outlet. I mean, have you ever talked to someone on the phone, like your mom or a friend, and felt like, oh,
Yes.
and we want to have that. And so giving Braylee that opportunity and making sure she finds a way to do that will definitely not save her, but save that from happening.
So do you feel like it's always necessary for anyone that struggled with an eating disorder? Is it always necessary to tell your kids? Do you suggest that everyone should be honest about that?
I mean, my gut reaction is yes, because of the fact that whether we know it or not, we have behaviors, and it's not that they won't go away. If we're fully recovered, and you've been fully recovered for years before you had a child, it's still something that I would talk about, just for the plain and simple fact that it helps to communicate. And usually eating disorders and mental health issues come up when we don't communicate and we like stuff it. And so I think that bringing it up to Braylee, and I mean, she's 8, so you could do it now or in a year or two. I wouldn't put it off much longer.
Right.
And just saying, I mean, I don't know, what do you envision saying, I guess?
Well, I don't know. I just can't imagine telling her everything. You know, and I mean, I feel like we do have that communication. If she comes home from school and tells me that someone said something mean to her, we talk about all of the positive things about her body, that she's healthy, that she's able to run, and she's able to do all of these things, you know. So we do talk a lot about that. It's just those things, and like we talked about with Casey, there are things that are embarrassing and that I don't even want my children to know.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to get in the nitty gritty. I mean, I don't know if this is your story, but this is just things that I get. We don't want to tell our children, like, hey, I abused laxatives and, you know, I had to wear a diaper for a while because I, you know, injured my colon, because that can happen. And I have a diuretics and laxative video where I talk about that stuff. And I think the main thing we want to get across is I used to binge and purge, and you can explain what that means. And I would encourage you to tie it directly so that Braylee can make the connection and be like, I had a lot of stress or anxiety or whatever you feel the reason was, because our eating disorder always serves a purpose. So I would bring up the purpose, and I would say, and I did that as a way to deal with this. And do you understand why it wasn't good for Mom? You know, and have her kind of come to her own understanding. Because I think that kids usually are pretty intuitive with their bodies, with the way we talk, and she'll probably say, yeah, that doesn't sound good, Mom. Like, you know, when you get the flu, and, you know, you can kind of explain, like, but I was doing that on purpose, and it was my way of da-da-da-da. And that's why we do, you know, we check in. And, I mean, you can kind of talk it out so that she feels like she's part of this.
Okay. So when does it become dangerous? Because I know friends of mine whose moms had an eating disorder, and then they had an eating disorder.
Yeah.
So when does that become dangerous? Or, you know, why does that happen sometimes? Why do the children take after the mother or the father that maybe was struggling?
Most commonly, and obviously with everything, it's not 100%, but no matter who I see, whenever I see that happen, it's just the same trouble communicating happening again.
Okay.
So it's the lack of communication. It's the same coping skills. So they've watched mom do it. Mom never talks about it. They don't understand. Then when they get stressed, like, because sometimes we're in similar situations with our children where we're both stressed at the same time. Something's happening with the family. We're moving. Dad lost his job. Mom changed jobs. Dad changed whatever. And they watch mom do this to deal, and then they start doing it. And then there's never the communication.
Okay.
But the fact that, everybody reaches out and has questions about how to help, and you're reaching out to say, I want to know how to talk, that's you're already leaps and bounds ahead of what other people are struggling with. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So all of you out there, if you do have children and you are struggling with the eating disorder, whether you're recovered or not, first of all, obviously see a therapist, get some insight into this so that you can kind of talk it out and you can figure out where you stand and everything, because there's no shame in talking about it. And the more we talk to our children about it and the more we work together, even if we're modeling with our children, like mommy has to have her snack now because, I'm kind of hungry and we know what happens. And I mean, you can't give someone an eating disorder by talking about it. So please, I encourage you, just talk to them about it, be open about it, because the more we talk, the less, it lives in the secret, so the less it hangs over us, I guess.
Right. Well, that was so great. Thank you so much for answering my questions, and I hope that it answered some of yours, and I hope that it eases the stress of any of you parents who are worried about any of these things that I've been worried about. So please leave any questions that you have for Katie and myself down in the comments below. We'd be happy to answer any of them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.